welcome to another episode of the Who Dat Jedi podcast. This is episode 243 for your record books. My name's Aaron. With me, as always, the other members of the Who Dat Jedi Council, Dave and Fredo. Hi, guys.
Hello there.
Oh,
No, shut up.
hola.
No.
I can't resist, right? Like every time, like pretty much every time you say, hey, here are the other members of the Who Dat Jedi Council, I'm thinking, I gotta say
Hello
it.
there, hello there, hello there.
Hello there.
You know, and that's the funny thing. It's just so weird how that, like I said, that one toss away line in A New Hope, like, became a whole shtick. So that was kind of funny. But I wasn't expecting that, Dave. That threw me off my game. That was funny. So, hey, Saints won. So, yay.
Yay!
You know, let's not talk about who we played against, but we won. You know, that's good. So,
Do you know my brother's a Giants fan? Just inexplicably random Giants fan, you know?
really,
And yeah, so ever since we moved here and adopted the Saints, we've had a nice rivalry there.
so that's an interesting thing. It's like I really disagree with it. It seems like, you know, whatever region you live in, it's like there's a thou shalt be a fan of these sports ball teams. It's like, you know, I could, sorry everybody, but I didn't go to LSU. I could give a rip about LSU. If I have a team down here, it's Tulane because my sister worked at Tulane, went to Tulane for a time. But even then, I mean, it's like, it's passive at best. But it's the college I went to, you know, that I root for. Likewise, I don't think that everybody down here, thou shalt be a Saints fan. There are some people who are just, maybe they grew up whatever fan because that's what their family watched, or they had an uncle that took them to a game, or an aunt that took them to a game, or something. I don't know. It drives me kind of a little bonkers.
It's interesting growing up here. You make that point because I knew many kids, particularly I'm a kid of the 80s and 90s. So now when we're all getting into sports, hey, the Cowboys were the hottest team. This is the days of the triplets of Irvin, Aikman, and Smith. So a lot of kids I knew were Cowboys fans. A lot of kids I knew were Raiders fans for no other reason than the starter jacket was the coolest thing ever. Uh, there was
Yep.
some kid, I remember one kid was a Browns fan because he decided to start rooting for Cleveland sports. I don't know why. Poor guy was just deciding to graduate to advanced level sports misery. Um, some kids, like my big brother for a moment was a Dolphins fan. I don't know. I think it had to do with Hootie and the Blowfish. Anyway, so why? Because for a lot of people, you literally had the Saints, and a lot of the times the Saints were awful, and they brought you no joy, but brought you pain and misery. As for the college thing, like I tell people, I have no college football team because my undergraduate's from a small college that had no football, so I root for the chaos. I am all in favor of the three out of the top seven and
You're
20 out of the top 25 losing.
you're the
That's my
joke.
favorite
You're the
side.
Joker.
That's right. I am a fan of chaos in college football. If I see number one, number five, number seven, number 10, number 15 all go down on a Saturday, I am happy.
You know, it is funny, however, that it was like when we first moved down here, and we'd only been living here a couple months, and I was unloading the groceries in our driveway, and I've got my Husker jersey on, and this car drives up and just says, "Hey, what color jersey you wearing?" I'm like, red. And he's like, said, "What school were you representing?" It's like, Nebraska. And he's like, "Oh, okay. I thought it was Alabama. We're all LSU fans down here. So, all right. Well, have a good day." I'm just like, holy cow. It's like somebody yelling at me in my driveway because I was wearing a red jersey. But anyway, so
And the funny thing is, depending on, like if he had asked a few years later, it might have been Georgia. Then again, Georgia and LSU don't really have a rivalry the way that Georgia and Florida do, or Georgia, Tennessee do. Alabama, LSU, it's all related to Nick Saban. You know, if he had stayed here, LSU would have been Alabama instead of Alabama being Alabama. but he left. Sorry, kids.
But of course, the oddest thing in the world, I still say all the time, is that Dave is a K-State grad, and Kate is a Florida State grad, and Brittany and I are Nebraska grads, and we are all very good friends. So dogs
We
and
don't talk
cats,
football as a general rule
dogs and cats can get along,
They just respect each other's goals, and when there's success, you politely applaud your golf rep, and when there's failure, you don't bring it up.
I'll say this. I'm a little less verbal about being happy when Nebraska loses nowadays. And I'm actually less happy about them losing now. I think because of our familiarity. So that's
Well, I appreciate that.
To,
We're
to
actually
be fair, they haven't been losing a lot this year.
not this year, no.
they've been doing pretty well this
Yeah,
year.
so knock on wood. Anyway, so you didn't come here to listen to sports, but it was fun to see the Saints win and actually do some things, nice. So, hooray!
They're doing it the right way, right? You can tell the locker room's bought in. Everybody's like rowing the boat in the same direction. Rattler is what he is, probably a bottom half quarterback in the league, but at the same time, he's avoiding those killer mistakes now.
I would tell you that I don't think that of all the problems that the Saints have, I don't think Rattler is even in the top 5. I mean, It's like you've got to defend the run, you have to protect your quarterback, your receivers have to get open. And I also wonder how much of it is getting used to a new playbook on both the offensive and defensive side of things. Because it's like we have smart people, but it's like if you're asking them to do stuff that's way different, there's just breaking in. But
There'll be bumps.
So anyway, don't know where I was going with that, but oh well. But tonight we got a fun little topic that was on our backlog, and we decided to go into it. We're going to discuss our favorite Star Wars sounds. I hesitate to even say that, like, the top 5, the best Star Wars sounds, because I don't like when people do the best this, that, or the other. It's like, because 9 times out of 10 it's your favorite. So we're just cutting out the BS. It's our favorites. So,
Yep.
So this should be fun. Be lighthearted. A little bit before we get in trivia, and this wasn't in our news here, I did see Fan Expo New Orleans is starting to drop guests every now and again, and Jessica Biels, who was in Flashdance and then in the Book of Boba Fett, right? Yeah, she's going to be there. So that was announced today, and I was like, yeah, I can get an autograph. And I was like, oh, I don't have a Book of Boba Fett poster. Then I was like, I don't want a Book of Boba Fett poster. So, so I was like, okay.
Do you have any like Boba Fett adjacent action figures, still in the box? You could never sign that.
Well, I mean, I've got one that's autographed by Jeremy Bullock, and why would I, then if it'd be one of those things like, why'd you have Jessica Biel sign that? I don't know. So, anyway.
Yeah, just looking at it right quick. So you get Jennifer Beals, you get Mike Coulter, better known as Luke Cage. He's also turning up. And then you get McLovin. Christopher Mintz-Plasse also going to be there. And then the cast from the original 1990 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. All of them. All 4 turtles, April O'Neil, and the Shredder. Okay. I don't know how I feel about that, but it's interesting.
Well, there you go. Anyway, I just saw that there was a Star Wars person coming in. So, anyway, hopefully maybe there'll be more.
Mm-hmm. Well, they usually add more. They're good about that.
So, let's do some trivia, get our brains wrapped around Star Wars. Don't have my glasses on, so this will be fun. All right, so Fredo, to you. I'm going to you first. Who's one door away from the escaping Cloud City when he finds the security code has been changed? Who's one door away from escaping Cloud City when he finds the security code has been changed?
See, I wanted to say at first, I wanted to say R2, but I think it's Lando Calrissian.
It is Lando Calrissian.
Because I remember the line that the security code has been changed, or the access code has been changed.
Can we talk a second about just the security lapses in Star Wars? The fact that like any droid can go in and plug in and hack your system. Don't you think that would be a something you would fix?
See, part of me wonders, like, it's one of those things where you're meant to understand that an R2 unit, an astromech unit like that, probably can do a bit more than your standard droid, or maybe it's something where your R2 is so well versed in how to do that. But because otherwise, it feels like one of those things where CinemaSins would have come in and said, that seems like a plot hole that
I
any
don't know.
droid can come in and fix. But
It
maybe it is the
it
case.
seems like writing your password on a post-it note on your computer is what it feels like. But anyway, I
Mhm.
digress. So,
I think part of what's going on with that is that R2D2 is just abnormally good at doing that sort of thing, because his memory hasn't been wiped over the years, and so he's just taken on all this knowledge, and now he's just really good at cracking codes and things. That's how I sort of read that.
well, Dave, I'm tossing you a softball here because you know my rule is whichever one I read first, I have to send it. So here you go. Who sums up the Ewok language as a, quote, very primitive dialect? Who sums up the Ewok language as a, quote, very primitive dialect?
It would be everyone's favorite protocol droid, C-3PO.
Ooh, yes, it is C-3PO. And that made me think, and it had nothing to do with the question per se, but it made me think of sounds that I need to add to my list. Give me a second. There we go. We'll do that. Okay, so to me, what Rebels' quote resistance to the mind probe is considerable, according to Darth Vader. What Rebels' quote resistance to the mind probe is considerable, according to Darth Vader. That would be Princess Leia. Dun, 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 dun. Another softball. Fredo,
Those
you
were
got the
softballs.
difficult one.
Well,
You're-
it's interesting that he is able to accept that she's strong enough in the Force to reject the mind probe. But I guess we're at this point, we're supposed to believe that they've forgotten all about midichlorian testing.
Quit
I
trying to
guess in way,
retrofit something.
no,
Quit
I'm
trying to
saying,
retrofit something. There
that
was
look, I can explain that away just by saying it went away with the Jedi and something only
she
the Jedi did, and so
she wasn't quote force sensitive at this point, Fredo. So there was, I mean, and he never said she was strong in force. He just said that her resistance to the mind probe was considerable.
but it never occurred to him maybe there's a Force thing involved. I mean, for the guy who's all about the Force, kind of surprising.
Anyway,
Mhm.
uh,
All right, let's
if
move on.
we could that would be kind of fun, like going through all of the watching A New Hope and then just identifying all the plot holes now because of everything that has come
Retcon.
afterward. We might ruin the movie for ourselves, but you know,
Please don't.
I mean,
No, we'll
however,
move on.
it is one of those things where I mean, there's ways that you can.
You can rationalize. pretty
Here's
much
how
anything.
I push that away, Fredo. It's that the fact that Darth Vader is very tunnel visioned. That's his
Exactly.
weakness. And
Yep.
so he was not thinking it's just wow, this person's giving me problems. You know, I really need to get those plans and this person's, you know, giving me problems. He doesn't stop and think. So that's how I rationalize that. So there. I
Yeah,
feel better.
he's not. He's very compartmentalized, right? He's not in hunt Jedi mode. He's in get plans mode.
Well, and by all he knows at this point, you know, he is the last, you know, except for Obi-Wan. So there's no reason to suspect. Anyway, so all right,
Let's
to
start-
news.
Let's start with mentioning it. Well, actually, it's not even a rumor now. It basically everybody short of Disney properly have announced that principal photography for Ahsoka season 2 has wrapped. It started leaking about a week or so ago. Bryce Dallas Howard was doing interviews for LA Comic Con a few weeks back. She's directing 2 episodes, and she said, "Oh, it's I just finished shooting them. They're so good, beautiful, thrilling, adventurous, romantic."
That's the word.
Yep.
Sorry. That's the word
Mhm.
that has sent everybody going stupid, is because she used the word romantic. So now everybody's thinking there's going to be a big love story somewhere. And it's like, let's look at our dictionary, folks, and romantic could be in the, you know,
Romance. Yeah.
not romance, but in like
But
the
big R romance, not little R romance, like
right.
romantic, tragic,
Yes. Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So, but
And as a,
man,
as a matter of fact, her quote actually goes to continue. It says, it is all the things that you want from an epic story." She's telling you up front, like this. She's not mentioning romantic, like, oh, there's a love story, although there might be. She's telling you it's romantic and this is going to be a grand tale. Moving on right quick, but then she wasn't the only one. Uh, both Natasha Liu Bordizo and then uh, Rosario Dawson posted on their own Instagram accounts pictures from their wrap parties as they were closing up last week. And then just this week, Ivana Sakno, Shinhati, also shared a big picture of Pinewood Studios at night saying, okay, this is it.
she wasn't
This has been home for the last few months and we're so sad to see it go.
she wasn't smoking on the back of a land speeder, was she? Because she got in trouble that last time. So
Yep, no, she
she,
was not. It's just a picture of the building.
yeah, she
But
was
again, it's all made.
smoking a cigarette on a toy land speeder, and like people lost their damn minds. So
It's difficult,
Uh,
right? You gotta maintain that polished Disney veneer at all
sorry
times.
if anybody in this world is smoking. It is Disney villains.
I mean, Cruella de Vil.
About every Disney, I mean, every Disney villain you could just see having a cigarette in an alley. I mean, so that
You want
doesn't
to buy some death sticks?
right. Okay, but anyway, it's exciting to know that we've got more stuff coming up. So what is it coming
Now,
next year? Yeah.
yep, that's so. If the expectation is now, my guess would be, and this is educated guess, we won't get season 2 of Ahsoka until after Mandalorian and Grogu drops. So I would say do not expect it till end of summer next year. That still gives them. We're talking about just under a year to do any reshoots, special effects, music, the whole night get already. But just from this point that we know that it's supposed to follow after Mandalorian and Grogu, so I wouldn't expect that show till maybe August, at the earliest next year.
I always say the over under on these series once they've wrapped shooting is about a year. Just set the over under at a year, and if they beat that mark, then cool. But my guess would be because of that. My guess would be September, October next year.
Cool.
Right around the time it's time for Disney Plus to go up in price again.
So
Yeah.
okay. So this is I might end up having to cancel my Disney Plus subscription because I just found out that the Disney Plus Hulu ESPN bundle is included in my DirecTV, my AT&T my plan. So I'm like, all right, well then I've got 2 Disney Plus accounts. I guess I can get rid of one and save me some bucks. So, but then I'm afraid that things would go south and then I will never be able to see Star Wars ever again. So,
And the problem there really is more along the lines of the issues with ESPN Plus. The moment you break up that, you're gonna have to go and sign up for the new ESPN $30 subscription
so
fee, which but I'll move right quick. Okay, I'll skip one bit of news. Recently, talking about TV shows, Timothy Oliphant, who's I believe on Alien Earth, the new show, another show from Disney, was being interviewed by Ringerverse, and they asked him, "Hey, what about you coming back to Star Wars?" And if you ever see Timothy Oliphant in any interview, the dude is cool, laid back, hilarious. So in his most casual way, just simply say, "Look, I've told John Favreau and Dave Filoni that both Cobb Vanth and myself are still alive. So I don't know anything. I know the show Book of Boba Fett left him healing, after he came face to face with Cat Bane. But he's asking to see, hey, when can I come back? So, for one, two things that tells me. Number one, he's not in the Mandalorian and Grogu because I guess he wouldn't have been saying, hey, when are you bringing me back if he's in that? He would have just said, I don't know, hopefully soon. And then the other thing is, it makes me wonder when would we see him back if we're ever going to see him back.
I still say when people say things like this that there's a very good chance that they're playing coy, and that he knows dang well when he's going to be back in, and it could very well be Mandalorian and Grogu. You know, could be Ahsoka season 2. It's like there's some bleed over. Who knows? But I do think they're setting up for all these characters they introduced. I still think they're setting them up for that whatever this big end game type movie is. So, but
Yeah, I mean, why not? Right? The mega crossover movie. Yeah, bring him in.
like I said, I'd put a couple bucks down and say that we see him in Mandalorian and Grogu. Like I said, I think there's, like I said, sometimes people are playing coy. So anyway,
Very well be. Could very well be. I mean, it's a good misdirect if you say,
well,
well, I've been asking him when I'm going to come back.
right.
You
That's the
know,
thing, is that you're not just flat out lying, saying no, I'm not in it. I know nothing of what you speak. It's like
mhm.
this way you kind of, oh yeah, I'm always asking him about it. I think it would be awesome and blah 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 blah. So, but I don't know why you'd keep that one under wraps. But whatever. Um,
Right.
that's cool. Yeah, I like the character. So
Okay. Last bit of news then, and this one it's an interesting one. Came out a few weeks ago, but I'll bring it up because it touches directly on Star Wars. So James Mangold, guy who directed Dial of Destiny, versus Ferrari, is supposed to be making a Dawn of the Jedi movie. Just signed an exclusive deal with Paramount,
in other
which
news, the Dawn of the Jedi movie is on hold.
well, that's where it gets interesting because he's now supposedly. I mean, he's working right now on um, he's making another movie with Timothy Chalamet. He just did a Complete Unknown, where the Bob Dylan story. So this is kind of similar. If you ever see, Christopher Nolan had done an exclusive deal with Warner Brothers for the longest time, and then he moved studios to somebody else. I can't remember what. But obviously, the question became, well, what happens to the Dawn of the Jedi movie, which was making for Disney, as well as he was hired to make a Swamp Thing movie for DC, which is okay. If you're making an exclusive deal with Paramount, you can be making move projects for other people. So IO9 and some other studios reached out to all of them. So for right now, this is the quote unquote official word. They all confirmed that quote, the filmmaker remains attached and available to develop all his other projects, end quote. So as far as everybody's up front, on the front facing side saying, you know, we signed him to this exclusive deal. He's supposed to be making some motorcycle movie with Timothy Chalamet soon, but he's still allowed to develop Swamp Thing for DC. He's still allowed to develop the Dawn of the Jedi for Lucasfilm Disney. Whether or not that comes to fruition, that's the multi-billion-dollar question.
Yeah, like I said, I was only joking on that one, but now I'm like, I am. But now there's a portion of me that's like, I'm wondering if that movie will get, you know, made.
As Dave tells us, we look at the track record that they're running on right now with these movies.
So
At, at one point, this movie was kind of at the front of the line, or
yeah,
close to the front of the line, and then, these things just it's like the shell game where they move one thing in front of the other, and then you're like, wait a minute, where's the ball? I don't know. So I think at best it was looking at third,
Mhm.
because you had the Starfighter movie and
well, the Ray movie was
The
supposed to be
Mandalorian.
the Ray movie was supposed to be first.
that
Then it
guy.
was going to be
Yeah,
Mandalorian and Grogu, and then it was
yeah.
going to be Dawn of the Jedi, and then all of a sudden Starfighter came from
Out of
somewhere,
nowhere.
So yeah, it is kind of like a hyphenate that I can't use on this podcast because Dave will, ban me.
McClunky, you?
Yeah,
Clunky.
it's a hyphenate that sounds like fire truck. But that's, I don't know, but I guess it's smart. I mean, it's like okay, we want to sign you to an exclusive deal. First of all, that makes you go, exclusive means nobody else gets anything, you know. But then it's like, all right, but what about these things that I've signed contracts for? So does he have something in writing? Has he accepted, any sort of whatever from Lucasfilm? And then I guess, how well does Disney and Paramount play together? I don't know. That's another thing.
And we've seen in the past where Disney has had to come up and make deals. Like, for example, the deal that they made with, I believe was it Paramount that owns Spider-Man? No, it was oh shoot, now
Sony.
I'm gonna
Sony.
Sony. Thank you. They had to come up with some sort of deal in order to be able to get the character in order for him to appear in the MCU. So at some point, you figure if enough money is up for grabs, or if they suspect that they need James Mangold in order to see this movie to completion, if it requires, okay, we'll give you 2% of whatever the box office is, or we'll give you, go share international rights, or whatever it takes. They'll make it work if
I mean,
the numbers sell them. You're going to make money.
the Indiana Jones movies was Paramount, right? So I
Hmm.
mean, so
Well,
Lucasfilm has a history there. So yeah, whatever.
yeah.
I don't know. We'll see.
I think this makes it maybe a little less likely.
This is me not holding my breath. Yes.
Right? Makes it a little less likely that this movie happens. But I think like where it's really more impactful would be any sort of spin-offs or sequels. Because like let's say he makes this killer movie set in this different time frame where they have all this space to play in, and he does a really good job with it, and Disney's excited and the audiences come out, and he's like, oh, sorry,
One and done.
I'm owned by Paramount now. I can't come back for you. But here's this other guy. He might be great for it. And so now you put the future of whatever you've built or established with him more at peril. And that's the sort of downside that I see from this.
That's one where I feel a little less worried. Because, like you said, Dave, that it's in such a different time frame, and it's so far in the past that you could tell if you wanted to have a trilogy, it could be a trilogy that is like spaced like 200, 300 years apart. You know what I mean? It's like, you don't have to, the very next day.
You don't have to worry about actors aging, right?
Right.
You got to do it right now. Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
So I think, so I think there's, anyway, we're just speculating our heads off here. But I mean, when I saw that he had his exclusive deal with Paramount, I was like, oh, okay, well, here we go again. At least we're getting Starfighter. So
Knock on wood.
by the way, I don't know if you heard me when we were playing Sabak, we had all the guys over, and our friend Ryan said, how do we feel about Starfighter? Did you hear my answer to him? I said,
Remind me.
you really don't need to feel anything about it right now, because the only thing we know is that Ryan Gosling is in it. That's the only thing we know. We know nothing about the story. We know nothing. It's just like, so don't get your, pants in a, wad and, freak out about things. This is my thing to everybody out there, is that you don't know anything about this movie or any of these movies. So,
They have a good photographer on staff taking these promotional photos. I think that's what I'll say. They have a good photographer.
Well, I take it back. We do know something about this movie, is that it is currently being made. So it's currently being made, and you have a Star Wars movie coming. So there you go. So.
Ta-da.
All right.
All right. And that's it for news.
Cool. Well, let's get into some sounds.
Sound.
How easy was this list for you guys?
I thought I was going to sit with it for a while because I was like, wow, this is going to be tough. And then I had five within maybe 5-10 minutes. And then I had several alternates shortly thereafter. So
We could have been mean to each other and put like rules on it, like favorite, best or favorite sounds that aren't A, B, or C, you know. But so I think we're gonna have some overlap. And so I guess, and I don't know what criteria did you guys use? Just I like it. The thing I was running through my brain was Star Wars is often imitated but rarely, if ever, duplicated. And that's where some of these, sounds with me were like, I've heard other franchises, other things try to do something with a similar, whatever, and just the sound does not carry it, does not work. So I don't know.
off the top, I'd love to shout out Ben Burt,
Right.
who was, a legend in this series, and he was there with George at the very beginning, and he was charged with like creating all of these sounds.
Well, yeah,
And they had to sort of, along with John Williams's music, be believable. They had to like sort of carry these sort of silly images that
Well,
were
but
happening on screen.
the way he did that was by using real organic sounds and just mixing them together. It wasn't
Right.
like just getting into a computer or a synthesizer and making pew pew sounds. It was um, hitting a wire with a wrench, or recording a seal and a lion's roar and mixing those things. So using organic sounds, it's what I've said before. If you make, whenever you're teaching somebody something new, you have to link it to something that they know to make them feel comfortable and ready for that learning. And I think that's what they did with the music. That's what they did with the sound. So
Because here's the thing, and before we get started, I guess I'll just throw in this. When I was thinking about it, I thought what you said first, and Star Wars. This is something that instantly makes me think Star Wars. But also, because remember, a lot of this stuff doesn't exist. It doesn't exist in our world whatsoever. But the sound had to fit in such a way that it felt natural. Like it felt like, yes, this would sound like this. And we'll get into some of our examples coming up. But when you think about it, when you think of this object or this character or this creature or this moment, the sounds emanating from the world around them feel like they fit in that world. They don't feel like, well, why doesn't it sound like that? That's weird. You never get that sensation. It's always disconnects in a way because, well, yeah, if you do X, you're gonna get this sound and it's gonna fit that. So that was part of my criteria.
all right, well, let's get into our list. First one off, I'll start us off, and I'm debating. I'm not going in any particular order, but I'm debating which one to go with. But actually, I'm going to start off with the TIE Fighter. The TIE Fighter. And I especially think of Andor season 1 when they were doing the Aldhani arc and the TIE Fighters were flying low, and how oppressive and how scary that sound is. I mean, it's almost like a roar of something that, yeah. So I think that sound is iconic. And it was funny. I got a text from, I guess Fredo, you were on that thread too, when Colesby was in Galaxy's Edge, and he says, he's walking around, and he's still, when you hear the TIE Fighter sound, he said, I still look up for something, but so yeah, TIE Fighter was my first one.
It's an iconic sound, right? Like you said, and it takes on a little more urgency and menacing nature after the stuff in Andor.
See, and I don't think it's as effective as I think it's more effective than the X-wing sound. The X-wing sound is kind of meh, it's original, but it's meh. But the TIE Fighter is, yeah, like you said, menacing and aggressive.
It's a great sound.
All right. Dave, what's your first one?
I'll keep it obvious for right now. Darth Vader breathing.
That's
That-
another one that's another little criteria to think of. Is like, if people go out of their way to imitate the sound, you know
And
that it is like iconic. But anyway, yeah, and Darth Vader breathing is one of
imitate.
those.
Here's what I was gonna say: imitate the sound, and you know exactly what they're referencing to. It's if anybody makes that Darth Vader breathing sound, everybody knows what you're referencing. There's no doubt about it. They're not thinking, "Oh, it's a guy in a scuba mask swimming in the ocean."
Yeah, you're right. Like I've been
Mhm.
doing that since I was, 4 or 5 years old, probably. Maybe before then. Just yeah, it's freaking the sound. That's the Star Wars sound for me. Like that's the one. And we all, again, we've all imitated it, and as you said, Fredo, that's when somebody does that, you're like, I know what you're doing. I speak that language. I speak dork. I speak Star Wars.
Nerds. Yeah, that's all right.
So I guess for my first one, and again, no particular order, but I guess I'll stick up for the X-wing in this regard. Their blaster shots. I love the way the sound.
That's a good
For
one.
example, whether it's the scene where Wedge is coming in to save uh, Luke in A New Hope when he just cuts in through and shoots down that X-wing, or the scene I was thinking more was The Last Jedi when Poe opens up by shooting at all the towers and all the TIE fighters. That shooting, that quick rapid that the X-wing make as they're shooting their blasters. Again, maybe the action doesn't sound as great as a TIE fighter swooshing by,
Touche.
but when it's shooting, you hear it, you know what it is.
Touche. Yeah, no, that's a good one. I've always liked the
Exactly.
at the front end of the blaster or whatever. Yeah,
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
that would have been this whole thing. We've seen, they always give you a little bit of Ben Burt when you see documentaries and stuff like that, but it would have been fascinating to sit. First of all, I've always been fascinated with Foley artists. Just the people who I think that's awesome. But I would have loved to just sit and watch him create. That would have been incredible. Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Fair enough for the X-wing. All right, I'm number two. I'm gonna go very obvious here. I'm surprised I didn't lead with it, but sorry, lightsaber. The lightsaber turning on, the lightsaber turning off, the lightsaber just standing idle and humming, the lightsaber being swung. All of those sounds are, again, we've all imitated them, and it's been, again, when I say Star Wars is often imitated and rarely duplicated, we've seen other shows where they use some sort of laser sword and it just never the same. It doesn't work. So lightsaber is my number two.
And again, to that criteria about people referencing it, I mean, we know for a fact that even the actors who've been in Star Wars, when they get to swing the prop, they start imitating the sound of the lightsaber swinging.
Well, and again, it's like we all go out of our way to make sure that the sound effect that we're giving to turn it on is different than turning it off. Why does it need to have a different sound? But it does, and we make sure it's like you don't use the same. So yeah, it's and again, that was just waving a bar in front of a radio antenna or something, or TV. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So anyway,
I mean, anybody that's been to Savvy's workshop and you built the lightsaber and you put a particular crystal in and you turn the thing on for the first time, it makes a different sound based on what you've chosen for yourself. And there's just something really compelling about that. My personal favorite is the one Luke has in Return of the Jedi when Vader takes a swing at him. You're unwise to lower your defenses, and
Yeah.
it's just like almost a screeching noise. He turns it on so fast. That one in particular, I love. Here's where I'll go. Maybe a little more humorous. I love the Tusken Raiders yelling.
Yeah.
Just the description, right, is enough, right? Like you don't even have to like hear the sound. Your brain immediately goes.
Yeah.
There's so many great sounds in A New Hope in general. You know, the crate dragon yell and these things, but gosh, that one just it makes me so happy, especially when it made a reappearance all those years later in Phantom Menace. And it was a dorky the pod race, and it's kind of like, oh, ha, ha, ha,
Yeah.
right? But still, it warmed my heart to hear it. It made me so happy, and I just guffawed despite myself. I'm like, this is so cheesy, but I love it anyway because that sound is so ingrained.
That was a good one. That was a good one.
It's one of those where, you know, again, just you said it and immediately you know where your mind went to. Uh, I'm going to go, okay, let's go with this one. Chewbacca's roar. If I, you know, first of all, going back to my point about this has to sound like it comes out of that being. Wookiees do not exist in our world, but how does a Wookiee sound when it roars? And whether, you know, and here's the interesting part: you get different roars from Chewbacca, whether it's the angry roar in Cloud City, whether it's the roar that you get when they're trapped in the pit, him and Han when they first meet, and Solo, whether it's the, you know, sad. You get all sorts of different. I mean, for a being that has its own language that we cannot understand, it's quite vocal, but uh, that roar again, it's one of
So
those things you like. It's Star Wars.
so that was one of the ones on my list. I didn't know if I was going to go with it because I was actually kind of arguing with myself a little bit because there are certain Chewie vocalizations that are really really good and really just like that's Chewie, and then there's some where it just sounds like they like just took a bear's roar and that's it. You know, it's like, and the other thing that I don't know, I'm of two minds of this also. It's like when we got in the sequel trilogy, you know, it's like Chewie got no new. They didn't try to expand on his vocalizations.
They just went to the hits.
So you know, it's so on one hand, I'm like, okay, thank you, because they didn't do the, you know, they didn't change up the blaster sound, you know, but because if they would have chosen poorly, then it would have made Chewie just. But on the other hand, then it's like, what does that guy only know 5 words? We know anyway. But yes, and that was like with a combination, like I said, a bear, lion, elephant, seal. I think all these things, and when you mix them together, you know, again, just using organic sounds where he could have very easily just, you know,
Spoken in English,
so yeah,
which would have been weird.
the old
Can
man
you
is
imagine?
mad.
Yeah, can you imagine Chewbacca
Hey,
actually
tell him we're
in
getting out of
English?
here. That's the best. I love watching those when he's sitting on top of the Millennium Falcon and Empire Strikes Back, and it's Peter Mayhew just
Mhm.
like yelling. That's awesome.
See, but part of me now hope, like, you know, like you ever get those edits where they put somebody else's voice. Imagine if you use like Arnold Schwarzenegger lines when Chewbacca talks. Get to the chopper.
My next one, I don't know if this is on your guys's. I don't know if this, but this is one that I often will make this sound. But the tauntaun. I've always loved the sound of the tauntaun. It's original. It's, you know, it's it just, yeah, I don't know. So the tauntaun, I don't know what else to say about it except I think it's I can't you watch other sci-fi movies or other movies, and the animals don't have that distinctive of, I guess, a language. So yeah,
Right.
I don't know. Did Tauntaun make it in anybody else's list?
No, but I do have some other Empire Strikes Back goodies. Um,
Yeah,
Go ahead.
again, it goes back to that point of exactly, like a tauntaun doesn't sound like a Minoc, doesn't sound like uh, a Great Dragon, but it
Well,
fits exactly what it
and
is.
there's the thing is, I want to know how did they come up with, because first of all, it always drives me crazy that it's known as a snow lizard. It does not look like a lizard at all. You know,
And then
it looks like
how
kind of a mythical kangaroo type thing, you know. But if you're Ben Burt and you're like, okay, here's this animal, and it's a snow lizard, go. Where would you begin? At least Chewbacca, you have kind of, okay, he kind of looks like a bear, so let's start with a bear, and then you start finding sounds that kind of sound like a bear. But when it's like a snow lizard, where do you even begin? But they landed on a great sound. I love the tauntaun. So, yeah. Dave, what's your next one?
gives me Falcor vibes a little bit, you know. I think it
Yeah.
predated Falcor a
Yeah.
little bit, but yeah. Um, I guess I'll give. I want to give a shout out to the Millennium Falcon, the engine failure of the Millennium Falcon in particular,
Yeah.
which it's just every time I hear it, I get filled with this complicated feeling of dread and joy at
Well,
the same time.
It's the Star Wars sad trombone.
It really is.
Wah, 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 wah.
tell me when you hear that sound, you don't immediately picture Leia and Chewie looking at each other and looking over at Lando. Like, okay, are you serious? Like that's just like the thing I can think of when I see it.
You know, because I thought about the Millennium Falcon as well, and then it was
Mhm.
Millennium Falcon has several sounds that you could have gone with. I don't want to steal anybody else's list, but there's like it, because that was one that came to my brain. There's others that very
Like the
distinctive.
engine, yeah.
It's just not just one, but yeah, that's good.
That one though, it always comes up big in a big moment, and you're just like, oh no, oh no, oh no, that sound is back. I love it so much, but our heroes are in trouble.
So for me, for my next one, because yeah, part of me did have the Falcon's engine sound, but actually mine was more like general, just the engine of the Falcon. It sounds such a rich sound, but I'm gonna move that to honorable mentions. I am gonna mention it. I don't know. This might be cheating a little bit because this is dialogue, but I'm gonna cheat anyway. I don't care. Chopper's chatter. Okay, we have a lot of great droids. They all have unique vocalizations and languages and whatnot. My favorite though is Chopper just because he always sounds this close to just being done with everybody's nonsense. Like you hear him talk like, whoa, whoa, whoa. It's like whenever he's talking, it's like he's either upset, ticked off, fed up, or frustrated. Which I'm like in a galaxy far, far away where droids are supposed to be like helpers and support and friendly. The fact that somebody's just done with everybody's nonsense and just wants them to just get away from them warms my heart. And the fact that he's a war criminal just because he has to just so people can leave him alone, all
See,
feels better.
I'm gonna quickly dovetail off you with my next one
Mm-hmm.
because I
Mm-hmm.
think we can have a discussion about this because my next one is R2.
Mm-hmm. That was my honorable mention too. Yeah.
That's one of those things again when you see robots in other movies, it always sounds too much like beep boop bop beep boop. It sounds like Simon. And R2's again, he you can go back and see how Ben Burt put that all together, but it was his vocalizations making baby sounds and stuff like that. But it's one of those things where nobody else has been able to get it right, and sometimes Star Wars has not been able to get it right. Some of their droids that look an awful lot like R2 end up sounding like beep boop bop bop, like I just said. And Chopper was one of those where it was I mean, that was a total deviation from the norm, and maybe that's why it worked so well. But like I said, sometimes some Star Wars droids miss the mark, especially in Clone Wars and Rebels, in the animated stuff.
Yeah, I think part of it is it's we tend to forget that this is the voice of that character, and even if you do not understand what it's saying, and again, we don't need to understand much about Chewbacca. It's but the personality has to come through. You have to feel like, okay, this
Well,
character, this creature, this thing is having a conversation and is sharing in the journey. So you need that, and
well, what I
with art.
sorry, what I also love is that even though you have other droids that look exactly like R2, except for a color scheme change, they went out of their way to make the voice a little bit different, so it didn't sound exactly like R2.
Right.
So anyway,
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, it's one of those things where you're like their personality bleeds through. You start seeing who and what they are. You know, with R2, I mean, there's moments where he sounds scared and you know he's scared, or he's uh worried and you know he's worried because of the vocalizations, the sounds that are emerging from it. Uh versus with Chopper, where it's just like even the scene where it's just him and Hera flying, trying to get the tracker on the ship in Ahsoka, and he's just like bomb just blasting out of the sky. Well, you're gonna kill the people in the city. So what? You you understand where it's coming from, even if you don't understand the noise. You're like, okay, again, war criminal tendencies. But yeah. So anyway,
I have some droids to add to the honorable mentions
okay.
afterwards.
Mhm.
But yeah, those two pretty much stand above uh, all the rest. Um, I'll go with the seismic charges,
Had to be in it.
that's a
which
good one. That was a very new sound, very much a
yeah,
new sound, which was welcome. Yeah,
I had a friend who's like that. It sounds like a guitar. Like, why does it sound like a guitar? They couldn't get over this, right? Like, it's just like, that strumming noise, and but it was so distinctive, right? Like you said, it was a new sound. We had not heard something like that in that context before, where it's like a string instrument as a weapon. Like you don't put those two things together normally as an individual when you think of either, and yet I'm guessing, I'm thinking that was Ben who came up with that one again, and I'm just like, it's genius. It's it makes such a huge impression, and the other the little bit of like coolness to that sound effect as well is how there's this slight delay,
right. You
right?
you get the flash, then the bang. Yeah,
Yeah, you get the flash, and you're like, there's no sound whatsoever. It's like it pulls the sound inward, and then it releases it all. And I really enjoyed that sequence in the asteroid field, primarily because of that weapon that they introduced. It was really cool.
Fredo,
And
what's your
yeah.
number four?
Let's see. Next one. This will be number four. Uh, Going back to Empire. No, we talk animated. The AT-ATs walk, that hinge of them coming through. Again, picture in your head, picture AT-ATs walking and how they sound as they walk. Because even from a distance, it gives you a sense of their weight, of their size. This isn't a this isn't a speeder. This isn't a ship. This isn't something that's just gliding through uh, the air. This is something heavy, mechanic. This is something that's coming at you to wreck you with brute force, which in many ways it embodies everything that the Empire is all about, which is why it works perfectly in Empire Strikes Back. So just that idea of just that, as the adults are walking, and I love the fact that they don't move fast. They are like Michael Myers in Halloween. It doesn't matter. You can run as fast as you want. You can't get away from it because it is that overwhelming in its force and its brutality. And that again, I think Star Wars will have that.
Uh, I'll come back to that in my honorable mention.
Mm,
Um,
mm,
but yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. And again, the AT-AT also has several different sounds that
mm,
are iconic to it, not just
mm.
the
Can
chunk of
walk, but
the foot.
yeah.
Yeah. My last one, it, you've heard me talk about it before, but the Imperial Blaster, the blaster rifle. And really, you could say the Star Wars blasters in the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy a little bit. Sequel trilogy let me down because they changed the blaster sound, and that bothered me. And really, like I said, the Imperial blaster, the Stormtroopers blasters, sound different than like Han's, you know, DL-44. It sounds different than some of the others. Um, and again, a lot of movies that have laser guns, they don't sound as
Pew
good.
pew.
They don't sound as good. So that blaster rifle is, yep, that's my top one.
I always think of that Empire of Dreams segment with Ben Burt where he's hitting on the wire
Mm-hmm.
with the wrench, and it's just pew, pew, and it just has so much more of an organic sound quality to it. Um, yeah, it feels more tangible. It feels more real.
But it doesn't sound like hitting a, but it doesn't sound
Yeah,
like hitting a wire. However, we were all kids, and we all probably, at some point found that wire that was coming down from a telephone pole, and you hit it with a wrench or something. You can hear it, and like, wow, that's the Star Wars sound. But anyway, yeah, yeah, good one.
so I wish the timing of this lined up a little bit better, but maybe I'll be able, because we're like a minute 40 ish away from the alarm going off. But people who listen to this show, they know what the alarm is, and it's
Mm.
the Imperial warning alarm that you hear in the Death Star originally, and then they recycled it for future occurrences like in Rogue One, etc. Um, that sound, man, it just it's like it's a great alarm noise. I mean, it really, really is. Um, I didn't have a real obsession with it probably until I saw the trailer for Rogue One that featured it. And that was just really cool the way that they did that. And it really brought me back to that time in that place. And I thought, oh gosh, this is perfect. This is Star Wars. So yeah, no, that is now officially like part of my essential Star Wars noises, sounds.
For my last one, I'm going to go. Okay, maybe this sounds a bit esoteric, but I'm gonna because it's something that they've had to replicate for their stuff. It's the sound of going to light speed.
Mm.
When you think about again, when you think about Star Wars, we've all been on Galaxy's Edge. When you hit the thing, go to light speed, it makes that specific noise as you whoosh. The lines go long, the whole screen goes blue, and next thing you know, next thing you know, the ship just goes choop and goes away. But inside, you get the whole sound of going into hyperspace. And again, there's many ways. And look, faster than light travel is quintessential to all sci-fi, sci-fi fantasy shows. They all have to invent a way to get you from one side of a galaxy to another in a relatively same amount of time. And I still think this is probably the coolest way that anybody's devised. And the fact that other people have had to devise other ways to get around that because they can't really copy this tells you a lot about it. But a lot of it is just tied into that sound. When just think back to A New Hope when they get the computations and Han just goes, okay, we're going to light speed, strap yourselves in, and you get that sound of the Falcon just whooshing away.
Well, isn't that kind of funny that Guardians of the Galaxy, Marvel basically does a really good job at taking the wonder out of light speed travel. It's just like doors open, you're through it, and you're at the place you need to be. You know what I mean? It's, I think they're, I wonder if it's like we're not going to come up with a better. I'm projecting. I'm reading into something. I don't have any basis in this, but do you at some time just say we're not going to get anything better than what the Lightspeed sound is, and we don't want to copy it, so let's just to heck with it. Just get them from point A to point B now. Just describe it in a different way. So I don't know, because you're right. It's a distinctive sound in Star Wars. Yeah.
There's kind of like two parts to it, right? Like, because it's like the ship
wind up.
itself. Yeah, the ship itself sort of like shifting into Lightspeed.
Into that
speed.
gear. Yeah.
Yeah, we're shifting into this gear. And then there's the the loud thwomp sound of it, just like you disappearing, basically.
Which then gets reversed when you come out of Lightspeed. If you think of something like, say, Return of the Jedi, when the Alliance fleet shows up on Endor, or Rogue One when they show up on Scarif, they have to invent then a way to coming out of Lightspeed and how that sounds almost in reverse in order for you to feel like, okay, you've stopped going as fast as you were, and now you've dropped back into regular space.
So
that's a really good one. That one didn't even like spring to mind for me.
That's one that I thought of with the Millennium Falcon. Actually, that was because I associated, because the first time we ever saw it was in the Falcon's cockpit. So, all right. So starting off the honorable mentions round, I don't have. This is my only honorable mention. You guys will have all those, but because you said the AT-AT walking, I put Imperial walkers, because the chicken walker, the ATST, that's a different sound of walking. I love the laser blasts. I mean, the cannon fire from the ATST is different. The cannon fire from the AT-AT is, I just like all the sounds that are coming from those walkers. It's very mechanical. Like I said, the blaster fire is different. You hear the whirring and the gears moving. It's just a lot of attention was paid to the walkers.
And just to kind of, it reminded me of Jedi Fallen Order, because there's one of the first missions you get on when you land on Kashyyyk is you have to take down an Imperial Walker, and they replicate all those sounds. And part of it is, you're right, the blaster sound on an ATST is much different because it's supposed to be a smaller gun. It's supposed to be a smaller turret, so it's not supposed to generate as much force or as much noise. So it's interesting. But yeah, you're right. I'll let Dave go with his honorable mentions, though.
Oh, I would be fearful that I would take some of yours. So
No, go. Okay. I only got a couple more. One of them was, I wanted to throw in the Rancor. Again, going back to those creature sounds, the Rancor makes, it sounds monstrous. It sounds, you hear it before you see it. And just that kind of puts you in a headspace of, okay, this is something that's menacing and dangerous, and it doesn't sound like something that you can kind of come to terms with or come to an agreement with. So I always love those kind of monster sounds that they find a way to fit in. The other one, I'm going to go back to another ship, and I'm going to say the Naboo. Actually, I'm just going to say all of the Naboo ships, because they are completely different from any other of the class of ships that we've seen in any of Star Wars. All the other ships, all the other vehicles, they sound clunky. Not clunky. They sound mechanical. You truly get the sense of a different age with whether it's the Naboo Starfighter or Princess Amidala, Queen Amidala's ship.
Yeah, it's like they're all driving hybrids. Yeah.
They're all driving hybrids, hot rods. But these are like the, if say like the X-wing was like your hot rod that you modded in your backyard or in your garage, like the Naboo Starfighter sounded more like a Bugatti or a Lamborghini, something that some mechanic artisan in some Italian place developed. Again, they sound completely different. I love that about them.
Wanted to shout out a few things. Chewbacca laughing. His laugh just kills me. The droids we mentioned, the Imperial probe droid.
Oh yes, that's a good one.
Oh
Yes.
my gosh,
Mm-hmm.
that one just that was another sound that was very popular on the playground, right? Like making that sound.
Mm-hmm.
The mouse droids, the Gonk droid,
Oh my
all
God.
of,
Donk.
yeah,
Donk.
Gonk, Gonk. Uh, Poggle the Lesser, and some of those arena noises that you get, just just all
He
these,
had a weird dialect.
See, I didn't,
Like
I
like
didn't, I didn't care. I didn't.
all of
Of
those
course,
alien. They
you.
were also alien
Yeah.
sounding, right? And you hadn't heard anything like it. Just loved that, and
mm,
the Acklay and some of the creatures in the arena too, and yeah, just I loved that stuff.
See,
Uh,
and not to, but
yeah,
and not to poo poo on anybody's here, but like when I think of the Acklay and Fredo, you mentioned the Rancor. The problem is to me with both of those sounds is that it's like if you dropped me in the middle of nowhere and played that sound, I wouldn't go, that's an Acklay. I wouldn't go, that's the Rancor. It sounds, yes, like a menacing beast, but I don't. That's and while it might be enjoyable, it's not as original in some of its construction. That's my 2 cents. But that's
works
it.
for me.
If
Like work,
it works, yeah, that's
yeah.
fine. So
Yeah, it works for me really well, and it imprinted on my brain in such a way that I probably would recognize it right away. Um, Pod Racer engines are similar from the
mm-hmm,
prequels,
okay,
and they
okay.
all had their own distinct
mm-hmm.
sound, right? And like that's what really made that whole thing work. Um, and then I had to throw this last one in because
Real
it's
quick, before you
okay.
on the Pod Racer ones, and I know it's one of those problematic things because we all know that Bill Cosby is a pile of crap. But his go way back in the day, and when he did his whole go kart, um, spiel on his routine back in the 70s or what? Did you ever hear that one where you talk about go karts? He was
Mhm.
like, everybody was warming up their go karts, and it was like you had one guy going, and another guy, and everybody had their own sounds for their go karts. That was the same thing with the pod racer. That's when I first saw it. That's what I thought was that whole routine is the kids with their go karts making their own. What does your go kart sound like? So
For a moment there, I thought you were gonna say banquet and arrows.
Last honorable mention for me, and
Mm,
I had to mention this, even though it's not technically only Star Wars, the Wilhelm scream.
mm,
Like, I adore that. I adore it.
when was
And
it
I
first
associate it
used?
more with Star Wars than other movies, but I also can acknowledge that it's appeared in what hundreds, if not thousands, of movies at this point. So
I'm looking it up because I do wonder when. Come on, internet, don't feel. Okay, so Wilhelm scream's first use was in the 1951 film Distant Drums.
there you go.
All right,
Predates Star Wars by
26
26
years.
years.
Yeah. So
I mean, it's been on everything for me. Now, when you hear it, you go, Wilhelm scream. I mean, it's been on everything. I think some directors just love hiding it in there,
but
but it's
that's
so obvious now you can't really call it hiding.
and that's the thing that kind of bugged a lot of us with again the sequels is that um, they created a different Wilhelm scream. I think it was something that was similar, but it wasn't the same. And it's just like, why not just use? Because that is
The Wilhelm.
it is that shtick that just you said the thing. I mean that just would. But when you change it a little bit, then it's kind of like whatever. So
Hmm.
cool, cool,
There we
cool.
go.
Yeah, no, like I said, I think it goes back to often imitated, never duplicated. And I do really think it's because all of these sounds that we talked about are, you know, or organically created. Oh, another honorable mention I would say I really dug Jango Fett's ship. and Boba Fett's.
Mm.
Talk about a different sound to the, to its engines. It sounded more like a heavy duty piece of machinery. So that was
What
another one.
Speaking of Jango Fett, what about Jango Fett's blaster? Which
I
again,
like that sound.
I mean, talk about the difference between his blaster and say the Imperial blaster or even Han's. It is completely different sound. It's interesting because I think it's the only time Boba Fett's doesn't even sound like his, like Jango's.
Yeah, it's
I don't know
almost
if
like
because
it's almost like a backwards blast. Yeah,
Mhm,
it's
mhm.
okay. So, well, cool. All right. Well, what did we miss? You guys let us know when you see us on the street corner if you're cutting my hair or whatever. What are your favorite sounds in Star Wars? So, but until we get that, we will say who dat.
For
Yeah.
that,
Everybody have a fantastic week.
McConkey.